Support for CFO Thought Leader comes from Ledge and US Bank.
Hi, I'm Karen Williams, CFO of American Express Global Business Travel. You are listening to the CFO Thought Leader podcast.
This is episode 1059.
We were always looking at, sustainable growth that will also trickle to the bottom line. And for example, what we did is scenario planning. So every year when I do the budget or when I do the planning, I look at 2 or 3 scenarios. One is, macroeconomic headwinds continue to present. And then we need to understand that potentially companies will spend less, and therefore we need to model it in a certain way. Some of the things that we are seeing recently, that potentially some of the countries like North America, we see some, I don't know to call it a trend yet, but some signs that potentially North America is coming out of a risk of recession. And with the elections results, and companies tend to be more positive to a certain extent. But still in Europe, there are some challenges, there are some headwinds. So how do you build a scenario that kind of consolidate the 2 assumptions with regards to that?
Hi, it's Jack. On today's episode, we speak with Eliran Glazer, CFO of Monday.com. Hello, and welcome to CFO Thought Leader, where we explore the strategies and leadership practices shaping the future of finance. In this episode, we welcome back Monday.com CFO Eliran Glazer, who reveals the key priorities that CFOs should be focusing on as we enter 2025. Eliran shares insights on navigating an ever-shifting economic landscape through scenario planning and stresses that finance leaders must balance near-term demands with long-term efficiency. We're pleased to feature Eliran once again. And for those of you who may have missed our first talk with Eliran, on this same episode, we've included a short replay at the very end of Eliran's career journey, that portion of his original episode for you. We hope you're enjoying the end of 2024 as well as the start of 2025. We'll be back with CFO Eliran Glazer after this. Are you tired of manual, fragmented, and time-consuming expense management processes? Then the US Bank Commercial Rewards Card might be right for your business. More than just a card, it's an all-in-one card, expense, and travel management solution that replaces outdated expense management methods with a single intuitive platform. Specifically designed to scale with your growing business, it provides the control and real-time insights into spend that you need. It integrates with your existing tools, lets you set custom spend policies, captures all expenses automatically, and liability is kept at the corporate level. Employees can even book travel right in the platform. You also get to choose your rewards, either points or rebates, all while saving money with no annual fee. So why wait? Manage your cash flow better and streamline your business operations today with the US Bank Commercial Rewards Card. Visit usbank.com/CFO to learn more. Today, we're pleased to welcome back CFO Eliran Glazer of Monday.com. As a return guest on CFO Thought Leader, Eliran has previously shared his inspiring career journey with us. His path, as some of you might recall, to the CFO office is populated with firms such as KPMG, Next, Schema, and Triana. He played a key role in Monday.com's successful IPO back in 2021. Welcome back, Eliran.
Thank you, Jack. It's a pleasure to be here, and thank you for having me again. I'm happy to come back.
Yeah, well, we appreciate you joining us, and I'll point out up front, Eliran has agreed to share his thoughts on 3 key areas that finance leaders over the past year have frequently identified with us as concerns or areas where they'd like to prioritize for the coming 12 months. And I'll mention the three areas. They include achieving long-term efficiency, advancing your CFO tech acumen, I like to call it anyway. But it's more or less why CFOs need to become more tech experts. And this push to real-time data, data-driven insights, really. And of course, that's something we've been following all along, but now more than ever, I suppose. But these are the three areas, Eliran, and if it's okay, I'll just tee up my first question. Are we ready?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. So it goes right to Monday.com, really. We're curious, how are you integrating long-term forecasting into Monday.com's financial planning to navigate these economic uncertainties out there as we head into 2025? What would you tell us?
Yeah, sure, Jack. So we are getting into 2025 when we are still navigating economic uncertainty. There was over the last, I would say, 3 years, the market had, we experienced headwinds. There was a lot of uncertainties combined with geopolitical pressure from, countries in Europe, even in the Middle East and other places. And when you think about planning for the longer term, first, we need to understand this is not just planning for 2025. This is a marathon. It's a long journey. And we need to plan looking maybe at 24 to 36 months down the road. And you have to kind of balance between long-term view and short-term pressure. The world has changed. For example, if you would have looked at projections only, I would say 4 years ago, it was growth at all cost. This was kind of the thing. Companies wanted to grow at any price, at any cost. And when we kind of started to experience the macroeconomy headwinds, there was a change in the way companies were projecting their business. They wanted to have a sustainable growth, not only looking at growth of the top line, but also improve their bottom line in terms of efficiency. How do you leverage the operational cost in terms of profitability, in terms of achieving free cash flow or positive free cash flow? And this is the way we managed Monday, actually, from almost since we went public. We were always looking at sustainable growth, a long-term durable growth that will also trickle to the bottom line. And for example, what we did is scenario planning. So every year when I do the budget or when I do the planning, I look at 2 or 3 scenarios. One is, macroeconomy headwinds continue to present. And then we need to understand that potentially companies spend less, and therefore we need to model it in a certain way. Some of the things that we are seeing recently, that potentially some of the countries like North America, we see some, I don't know to call it a trend yet, but some signs that potentially North America is coming out of a risk of recession. And with the elections results, and companies tend to be more positive to a certain extent. But still in Europe, there are some challenges, there are some headwinds. So how do you build a scenario that kind of consolidate the two kind of your assumptions with regards to that? And then potentially there is like the third scenario, which says, okay, next year, getting into 2025, 2026, next years, there is going to be ease of the economic pressure. The markets are going to be recovering. Companies will be willing to spend more. And this is, I think, the priority of the CFO. You always have to kind of think about what scenario are you modeling and how you become proactive in the way you manage the business and not reactive to the macroeconomy situation. And this is an ongoing kind of on a month-by-month basis. You kind of track the signs and you decide, and we will get to there when we'll speak about real-time data, but you track the performance and then you apply judgment and continue to operate in accordance with the scenario that you have chosen to be your kind of leading scenario, and then you can modify it if things will change. So, I would summarize it by saying transparent scenario planning, which, accommodate the situation in the markets, is probably the best thing for CFOs to kind of take a longer term view.
Yeah, that longer-term view is always at risk, though, isn't it, as we balance short-term pressures? And I'm wondering if you have a mindset that you try to translate for your team as they get too focused on certain short-term problems or challenges. Sometimes they can, upend the ship because too many people are reacting to something that, and then the long-term goals get out of focus.
It's great to report on what you have achieved. It's more important to understand what it means to you in the next quarter, 2 quarters, 12 months, and even 24 months. So when I do the meetings with my executive team and with my team, I say, okay, if this is a 15-minute meeting, spend 2 minutes on what we achieved and where we are. Spend the next 10 minutes on what it means, what it tells us, and what it means in terms of visibility, in terms of the future, in terms of the projections in the next 6, 9, and 12 months.
Now, Monday.com, I think most observers would say this company likes to grow. It's an aggressive growth company in a lot of people's minds. As someone who's certainly demonstrated, how to scale and grow a company, what would you tell us about not compromising the stability and efficiency along the way?
As I said earlier, when you think about longer term growth, you want to make sure that you continue to improve your efficiency in the way of the results. So I will give few examples. We have very clear KPIs and metrics that are measuring the health of the business. Well, for example, we want to show or demonstrate that we continue to be efficient. We look at return on investment. When we do the online marketing campaigns, we understand what is the return, and then we decide whether we need to invest or not because the campaign is healthy or efficient. One thing, we have a dashboard of data, don't have like 20 pages of KPIs or 10 pages of KPIs, just have 1 or 2 pages with your main KPIs, return, magic numbers, months of return in terms of sales efficiency, your CAC calculation, have all these metrics that will help you to navigate the business and will tell you how to invest or where to invest in terms of, sustainable growth. So I will give an example. In Monday, we have a system called Big Brain. It's a BI system that measures everything we're doing. So we have now 4 products or 4 products line. We have work management, we have Monday Dev, we have CRM, and we have Monday Service in beta. And we have campaign for each one of them, an online campaign. And then you spend, performance marketing, online campaigns, you want to see the return. For example, if the return on each product on the what we call no-touch customers, the ones who are swiping credit cards, is less than 12 months, dollar on dollar, then we say maybe it's not a very healthy campaign. We should look elsewhere. We should allocate the capital to the places that we see the best return that we can get. So this is just an example of decision-making on campaign management.
We're going to move to our next topic where we boldly say CFOs need to become tech experts. And of course, they've been hearing this for some long time. And I know you've always prided yourself in part on staying on top of tech, Eliran. But let me ask this question this way. How has your understanding of emerging technologies influenced financial strategies and decision-making at Monday.com? What would you tell us?
Sure, Jack. So when you think about Monday as a business, Monday is a work management platform that assists organization in digitizing or automating their work processes. So this is what we do. We are improving manual processes in order for the operation of the business to be automated, to be collaborated with all the employees. And this is a tool that saves a lot of time, saves, increased productivity, and allows people to use their time better. So this is technology. For example, when you buy Monday, you're not really buying just a software. You buy building blocks that helps you become a more digitized organization. Similar what we do in finance. There are many work processes, legacy systems, even Excel that we are using that you have to, I will give an example with Excel. Excel, you're working on Excel, then you have to send it from one another via emails, and then you have Google Sheets that can be shared, but there are some limitation. When we are using Monday, we're using Monday pages on the call. We're using Monday for IR. We're using Monday for PR. We're using Monday in some of the budgeting process. And this allows us to have everybody are looking at the same screen. Everybody is connected on a real-time basis and using Monday in a way that is very efficient. It saves you the emails. It saves you the WhatsApp. It saves you the Slack and notifications. So everything that we can automate rather than do a manual process is something that we are looking at. We are going to implement NetSuite at the end of this year to replace the accounting system. And on top of NetSuite, we are also adding procurement automation software, and we are adding quote to cash automation software. So everything that we have done, or we can move from a manual legacy system to a proprietary system that we can buy off the shelf, or we can automate, we're doing it. I think this is, if you are, as a CFO, not actually one of the people who are promoting this process, who are sponsoring this process, you may left behind, and you are not really improving your efficiencies in the way you work internally, not also externally. In addition to that, you can be the guy with, as a CFO, to bring new technologies to the company. So I encourage my team to look and explore systems. So one of the targets that we put for 2025, when we speak about what is your goal for 2025, it's not only financially, it's not only, business-wise, but also operationally. Let's see what systems, 4 or 5 systems we can look, we can explore, and we can buy potentially to replace systems. The last thing I would say is, we cannot have this conversation without speaking about AI. Yeah. 2 years ago, everybody were speaking about AI, or started actually a year ago. But now, as a productivity software, Monday is using AI. It started with AI assistant, which means in every board or dashboard of Monday, we had a button that you could press, and it would have, do a calculation of formula. It will automate or generate a board or a dashboard. It will help you do things that used to be manual and automate them. And then we moved into the next level, in which we embedded the AI features into the solutions themselves. So when you buy work management or CRM, you have in the board AI, atomic AIs, because they are building blocks that you can use. For example, if you are getting a text and you are a CRM user, you are getting a text from your salesperson, you can summarize, categorize, find kind of the words that can be telling you something that is meaningful. And then you funnel it to the right salespersons, to the right group, and you have a summary of the conversation. It helps you to get a lot of insight, and we're obviously using it. So I'm sure one of the things that we are going to look also next year is in AI solutions that will help the finance team as well.
So are you evaluating the possibilities there? And do you expect AI to contribute to your forecasting capabilities?
I don't know to tell you now that we are doing it to be completely...
You're not alone. We hear that. I've been tossing that question out regularly for the last 3 months, and there seems to be some evaluation, but caution as well.
But I will give you an example for myself. So I'm a great believer. I'm participating in your podcast. I'm a great believer in, understanding the market trends, listening to podcasts, understanding earning calls. So at first, I used to go to, Google and look for, a podcast at a certain area. Today, I go to ChatGPT or Gemini and say, provide me a summary of earning calls of the software SaaS companies of the world. You get all this data instantly. And this is something that you have to get used to it, because it's not it's not intuitive for you to do it. But now you can get this data really fast. You just go there, you click what you want in ChatGPT or Gemini, and you get a lot of insights. Summarize the earning calls of company A, company B. How can I tell the story? How can I summarize this? So it's not directing, but indirectly, you get a lot of things for a CFO that you can use in your calls, in your projections, in your, when you speak with your executive team. This is really helpful, and I'm sure there's going to be an evolution of that.
Yeah, an evolution and maybe a revolution there as well. In terms of and this is another area, maybe another podcast, but investor relations is changing. And you've lived through an IPO, you brought this company public, but how the marketplace is educated over time. And this intersects clearly the world of AI and technology in a meaningful way. How you communicate to stakeholders, investors, and analysts out there is about to change.
Yeah, so it's a great question. I think we're just getting started there. So, you know, I'm working with Byron and Paige, both based in the US, that are working with me very closely in managing investor relations and the analyst community. And I can tell you that as part of our work, the three of us, we are managing, data, a lot of data of competitors. We have like what we call cheat sheets. And we have, data and benchmark information that we are using. And I'm sure, and I know that both Byron Page and myself as well, we are starting to look at, using the AI kind of LLMs in order to get insights, on trends, on macroeconomy. And it's something that we can use for the conversations, because you get the data almost immediately or instantly. You get a lot of speaking points or kind of notes that you would like. So I would say mostly, again, going back into the LLMs, but this is something that we are, working together and improving the kind of the underlying database that we are using in order to have the conversations with the community of the analysts and the investors. It's mostly around education, around getting the data and around the insights. This is a great help for us.
I believe last time we talked, you were pretty forward thinking about the hybrid workplace and how remote is likely to be a component going forward. That, of course, intersects technology as well. Technology can really serve these hybrid organizations. Can you reflect and talk to us a little bit about Monday's sort of journey into that hybrid workplace and how technology has become an important piece of it?
Yeah, so for Monday, and this is, I think, one of the things that are unique from Monday, Monday was always ideal for either if you work remotely or in the office, because it's a collaborate work management platform that people can use from wherever they want. It serves any business out there, and we are operating, as you know, or as I mentioned in the past, in the more than 200 territories and more than 200 business industries. And the beauty of Monday is, before COVID, we were growing really fast because people came to the office and they were, using Monday. In COVID, people started working from home. So they're starting using softwares that can be easily connected to like Zoom or Monday, because onboarding was really fast. You onboard immediately, you don't need customization and implementation. And immediately you start to, use it with your colleagues at work. And it worked really well. We grew during COVID like many of the other software companies, but it wasn't unique because of COVID. We simply understood that if you're remote or in the office, you can use Monday anywhere. And then coming back to the offices, I think there is now a hybrid solution. So, companies are working 3 days from office, 2 days from home, or maybe different mix. For Monday, it serves very well because you are staying connected to Monday. The folks in the office, the folks that are at home, they can continue to collaborate, they can continue to work together. And we're seeing that companies actually consolidate on Monday because they're looking for solutions that will kind of entertain the different way of hybrid remote working and in the office. So Monday is a perfect fit for organizations that are looking for solutions that can serve them wherever they operate from, and there are no limits to the way that you can use Monday in this way.
All right. Well, we'll move to our next area for discussion, real-time data-driven insights. And this is something, of course, we talked about over the last few years on the podcast, but 2025, it seems like you need to be there. You're someone who's been on the outer edges of this, sort of a leader in the space. And I'm always trying to figure out what distinguishes the leaders from, let's say, the laggards out there. And I always think it's investment. I don't know what you can share with us, but if I was to ask you, what investments has Monday made in real-time data analytics to make sure it's a leader here, and when it comes to real time insights. What would you share with us?
Sure. So I mentioned earlier that Monday has an internal system called Big Brain, and this is a huge system that actually is taking data from millions of sources, and taking all this data and providing you with dashboards and boards. If you go on Monday offices, so, in the floors of Monday, you will see screens in every floor, many, many screens. But it's not only for people who are using just analytics. If you're going to the development section, you will see screens that are showing their bug fixing, their product roadmap that they're working on, how they progress. If you go to legal, you will see how they're working on contracts, how many signs, how many are on signature, how many are on work. If you go to the guys in customer success, you will see, how many tickets are open, what is the progress. We are using AI, we are using ADA. How is the, stats looking there? If you go to finance, you will see screens about ARR, about revenue, about cost. Same if you go to sales. So the way we manage Monday is showing you the data. And why it's so important? Because if you're a developer in a company, you don't always understand what is your contribution to the numbers or what is your contribution to the operation. But if I have a screen on the wall that tells you that you solved the bug, and then there is a ping that says, boom, a bug is solved, and you listen to that, it kind of, it's almost like providing you with, I would say, endorphin, because you see the immediate reaction to something you have done. And people, it's like the like button in Facebook or in Instagram. You want to make sure that what you do matters. And the way we are doing this engagement, the way we are creating this engagement is by putting screen, immediate feedback creates, great reaction. And then it kind of fuels you to continue the process. And across all floors of Monday, you would see this screen in every office, in every place. And Big Brain is really something that there is like a team of developers that continue to innovate Big Brain, continue to work with Big Brain, and make sure that the system is always improved, and provide data on campaigns, on sales, on finance, on legal, on bugs, on tickets. And people are getting this data all the time. They are going anywhere and they're seeing it. So this is like a real-time data that drives insights and allows people to continue to do what they do and get reactions, as I said, or feedback.
Yeah, and I recall talking to you about this, and let me just run some scenarios by you, just so I if I understand this correctly. So the fact that you make this data so visible throughout the company, that you're educating the greater workforce really by doing this. So people might come back from lunch and Eliran steps into the lobby and, someone's pointing out a certain number to you saying, that was only, 50% smaller yesterday. Could that be an issue, or why would that be? As if you're every number, of course, Eliran.
Yeah, so there are obviously some of the, we're doing it in accordance with the limitation of a public companies, set rules. So there is an information that, only some people can see. And then immediately they will come and say, what happened to the ARR today? Or why we did this amount of deals? This amount, you can publish the number of deals because it's not something you cannot disclose. Then if you have a trend of deals that you close the day, the sales manager would get, why did you only close this number of deals? Or, it's like the bug fixing, maybe not asking me, but we have too many bugs today. What's going on? They will go to the manager, or the manager will go to them and say, John, I see that instead of 20 bugs, we have 40. What happened? Did you release a software? So this is like, it's encouraging to have conversations. And yes, I get questions on the financials. I get questions on the revenue number, on the share price, on the ARR, in the elevator, and then but it's okay. It's encouraging people to learn and to get, because you put screen of data in front of them, it's kind of create for them the curiosity to go and look, and they understand that some of the things that are doing are influencing or impacting. They will go and explore, and they will look at other sources. So yeah, there are conversations that we are having, definitely.
When you executed this strategy of sharing numbers more broadly, of displaying them and educating the greater workforce, did your legal counsel pull you aside or what? Again, you indicate, hey, we have to be careful here. We're a public company. There's certain numbers that clearly can't go up there. But again, how did you execute something like this? And are there legal concerns? Clearly there are. But for other finance leaders who want to begin sharing data, what is that? What are they going to bump up against?
Yeah, sure. So first of all, we get clearance from legal. Everything that we are doing has to go through a certain protocol and a certain procedure in which legal provides you with the approval to look at this data. So we're using all kinds of methodologies that you only share some of the data, you only share some of the picture, you cannot share everything. And then we get a clearance. They are like, we did it when we went public. We had like training sessions, we had like movies, we had like videos that's running in the organization that says, this is the data that we are going to share with you. And you are going to be only, if you're in group A, group B, what data you are exposed to. Obviously, finance people are exposed to data that is more sensitive than the salespeople or the developers. So what we do is we are following the certain guidelines that are giving clearance and approvals to certain groups of employees in the organization to make sure that we comply with all the requirements. So it's like almost you have to do like you're signing almost like an NDA, or you're signing all kinds of things that you understand that this data is should not be disclosed. But there are so many ways in which we're doing it to protect the data from being kind of shared outside of the people who can only see it. So you need to build a system from legal, finance, and operations to make sure that you have clear guidelines and rules how to present this data.
Well, thank you, Eliran, for giving us a little more detail there. And we've put on our 3 subject areas with you. And just one last question here. Looking forward, some of the market trends that you see coming forward in 2025, what do you see? What are you thinking?
The only thing I would say is where the market is going next year in terms of IPOs and M&As, because the market came from a period where there was almost no IPOs. Now, a recent one was Service Titan. So I think next year is going to be interesting in terms of companies who run their course in terms of funding and liquidation preference, and they need to either go public or be sold through an M&A. This is going to be one of the most interesting topics in my mind for next year.
Now, we look forward to catching up with you and talking about it. Eliran Glazer, thank you for joining us on CFO Thought Leaders.
Thank you very much, Jack. I enjoyed really from our conversation and looking forward for the 3rd time.
Hi, it's Jack. We hope you enjoyed our discussion with CFO Eliran Glazer. For those of you who might have missed our first episode, now we would like to share with you the career journey portion of our discussion, our original discussion with Eliran. This is from 2023. You know the feeling. A report deadline is looming, and your team is buried in spreadsheets with tasks like bank and payment processor reconciliations, journal entry prep, and cash flow reporting. But what if there was a better way? Ledge automates the tedious work that slows your team down, like high-volume transaction matching, journal entry creation, and even cash flow forecasting. Ledge glues all of your financial data together across your ERP, banks, payment processors, data warehouse, and more, and automates any workflow, no matter how complex or unique to your business. Get real-time cash flow visibility and make cash reporting and forecasting effortless while increasing controls and accuracy. And Ledge requires no IT or R&D resources. Ledge plugs right into your existing stack, so you can get set up in just a few hours. Imagine a world where your team can close the books faster with fewer resources. Imagine audit-ready data all year round. With Ledge, you can finally stop scaling headcount just to keep up with growth. Visit ledge.co. That's ledge.co to learn more about how you can automate your finance operations without the heavy lift. Hello, we're speaking with Eliran Glazer, CFO of Monday. Eliran, welcome.
Thank you, Jack. Thank you for having me. I'm very excited to be here and participate in your podcast.
Well, Eliran, we always ask our guests at the start to look back for us a little bit and try to identify some of those places in time where they acquired their finance leadership skills and experience. Can you look back for us and share some?
Sure. So I started my career more than 20 years ago in the Tel Aviv office of KPMG. Early 1997. Spent there 3 years, mostly auditing software companies, global software companies. And then after 3 years at KPMG, I decided that I don't want to take the direction of being an audit partner or an auditor in companies. I want to be a controller. So through friends, I had friends in other places. One of them called me, said, look, we have a job in a company back then called Backweb, publicly traded company in NASDAQ, an Israeli one. We are speaking about year 2000, just before the bubble burst. And they're looking for a controller, to join the company. And, I was interviewed there. And, early 2000, I left KPMG to start my career as a controller. And because Backweb was a public company, basically it had offices all around the world, in the US, in the East Coast, in the West Coast, in Europe. So I started my career as an accountant and a controller. However, I was lucky to have a CFO who was an Israeli American, who basically told me, he said, look, I'm pretty sure that you know your accounting well, but I would like you also to develop a business view. And I can tell you that it will help you during your career. And 20 plus years more after, I can tell you that his advice was great because, combining the accounting skills together with the business view and understanding the businesses that you are working with or working for is a great tool that I think will help many people. So as a young controller, I started understanding better the business, speaking with the product people, speaking with the marketing guys, speaking with the sales guys, and it gave me a lot of insight of how to look at things, not only from the financial view, but also from the business side.
Can I ask you about that CFO? I mean, how did he get his controller to enjoy that view? Did he start involving you in different discussions? Did he task you with a certain project?
Yeah, this is a great question. So I was my early 30s or even just before getting 30. He was in his late 50s and he was in a phase in life where he didn't feel like he has to be threatened by any one of his employees. So he said, look, I'm at the stage in life that I can share, information with you. I'm not going to marginalize you. So he actually took me to meetings. He allowed me to travel to the US to meet the team over there. He said, come join me for business meetings with either external stakeholders or internal. So the way he kind of shared his domain with me, by way of almost mentoring me in a way, helped me a lot to gain this knowledge and go this direction.
How big a company was? Is it TechWeb? Is that what you?
Backweb, the company called Backweb. At the time, it was, around, I believe, 500 employees, publicly traded, tens of millions of dollars. But I can tell you, and one more thing that I learned, during the bubble burst, after a year and a half, the company, was struggling like many other companies back at the time. The CFO, he took companies public before that. His name is Hanan Meron, just mentioning. So he lived in Tenafly, New Jersey. And he moved to another company and he took me with him. So this was the second phase of my career and he made me a director of finance. We built this relationship, which by the way goes with me until today. Many of the CFOs, sometimes people think about them as like bean counters, sitting in the offices, not really communicating with people. For me, I think you have to be a people person because I believe a CFO, in the evolution of a CFO, you're working with so many stakeholders, with so many people internally, externally. You have to know how to deal with people. And you have to be good at that. So for me, I joined him as director of finance in a company called Schema. It was back then in 2001. Schema was a company in the world of telecom. It was building sites for telecom companies such as Nortel, Alcatel, Ericsson, all these companies. I worked there for almost 4 years. Interesting, I was there 3 years as finance director, and then Hanan decided to move on, and basically they made me the CFO, the interim CFO, and later the CFO. So they kind of threw me into the water, and they said, look, you have to take this responsibility. So I joined the executive team. I started to interact with the board directly. And, I was also responsible for a lot of business things. And I think the education and the mentoring that Hanan gave me in the, until then, like 5 years I worked with him, helped me a lot. I can tell you that I made a lot of mistakes. Or here's an advice. Don't be afraid when you're given the opportunity. Don't be afraid to take the opportunity. And even if you make mistakes, you learn as you move on. We're not, even today I make mistakes when I'm very experienced, but I was learning, I was listening to, podcasts. I read all kinds of articles. I read material. Back at the time it was starting to be more kind of online internet articles and blogs. So I was doing a lot of things in order to develop myself as a CFO, definitely as a young CFO, but even improving my English, working with the people outside of Israel, in US, in England. You have to have better English, to have to understand, the jargon. And I was with Schema until 2005, 3 years as director of finance, 2 years as a CFO. And then I moved to a company called Triana. Triana was a company in the world of foreign exchange. It was a startup that was basically working between big organizations, big banks, JP Morgan, Morgan Stanley on one hand. And on the other hand, you have the hedge funds and asset managers. And we used to provide them with a platform to do trading notification for FX at the time. So in 2006, I was offered to do relocation to the US. And I remember calling my wife and telling her, look, Michal, Gil is the CEO. He offered me to move to the US with the family. What do you say? And at the time, 2006, I am 35 years old. I have 2 girls. And my wife told me, let's do it. So, we took the opportunity and we moved to the US. Another advice I would give people, don't be afraid to go to another country. It's an amazing opportunity, an amazing kind of exposure. So I lived in the US between 2006 until 2010. Now, Jack, to remind you, during that time, there was the meltdown of the banks. And I'm working for the financial industry. I'm working for a financial company during the meltdown of the banks, 2007, 2008, Bear Stearns, and then Lehman Brothers. But we were lucky because back in 2007, we were acquired by a London-based company called ICAP, a publicly traded that bought Triana, and they left us completely independent. And I can tell you that even during this crisis, I remember having difficult days in the US where you see, the sky falling, literally. But you also gain a lot of experience about what it means to be resilient, what it means to make decisions in times where, of uncertainty. If you just take like 15 years onward to our days, what happened in the last year? COVID to a certain extent, and even now in the last year, a lot of, uncertainty, inflation, geopolitical situation. So there are a lot of resemblance to some of the challenges we had to deal with.
That first 60 days as a CFO, if you can think back to who you were then, what is the piece of advice you might have given yourself or you'd like to give yourself if you go back in time? But you just stepped into the role. You're that much younger, that much less experienced than you are today. What is it that you would tell your younger self then?
So it's a great question, and I will give you 2 answers for this because there was also a mentorship that I took in a later stage in my life. The advice I would give to myself is I was always, I'm hyperactive, and I'm like, I move quickly, and sometimes the pace that I work, which by the way was helpful for me, say for example in many cases like the IPO, other people work in a different kind of pace, and sometimes you have to be more patient. I was almost like, I was loose, I wasn't very structured. And as a young CFO, I got to these meetings with with executives and with the board. And sometimes I didn't listen enough before I said what I had to say. I kind of just wanted to say what I wanted to say, which was a mistake. Even if I was right, you have to learn to understand the room around you, to understand your position, that every word that you are saying as a CFO, people look at you. You are the gatekeeper. And you have to make sure that everything that you say is meaningful, is valuable, and wait for your cue. So I would say, sit back, relax, listen to what's going on around you, and then, say what you want to say and add value. This is one thing. So as a young CFO, I can tell you that I made a lot of mistakes in rushing to things, sometimes just wanting to say my opinion without listening to others. The second thing I will tell you that later in my career, I have to be mentored. So while I'm in the US, we met a lady from an organization that is basically doing strategic mentoring for CFOs and other executives. And, what I wanted to learn from her is, as a CFO, you have many interactions with CRO, with CMO, with COO. You have to understand their angle, their pains, how they think about the business, not only through your mirror of the financial data. You also have to understand why it's important for them to bring more salespeople. What is the commission structure? You have to understand what is the campaign in marketing. You have to understand the operational side of the business. So what I did with her is trying to put myself in their shoes, how they view me as a CFO, how can I help them, how can I bring value to them? Because if the head of sales is telling me, look, I have to structure this compensation plan that sounds expensive maybe right now, but it will drive value and it will drive behavior, you have to understand what he's telling you. Not only to listen that this is expensive, maybe on the longer term, it's basically the right thing to do. So I would advise CFOs in their 60, 90 days, meet with all your stakeholders, understand what their, considerations are, what is painful to them, and try to give solutions, not to create problems. And, it's really important to have weeklies or monthlies with the head of sales, with the head of marketing, with the head of operation, with the head of product, understand the business, understand the product, understand what makes them drive the business in the way they're doing it, and get out of your office. So get out of your office and meet people, your colleagues, employees of your colleagues and employees of yourself, and your managers. So this is the interaction that really, the mentoring helped me a lot to understand this, and also develop a business orientation globally, like read about things, listen to things, read news, read magazines, read about the books that may help you to develop as an executive and as a CFO. So these are the advices that helped me, in different stages of my life. I did most of them, and they really took me to the next level.
Hello, everyone. Jack here. Hope you've been enjoying our recent episodes of CFO Thought Leader. Please know that I don't take for granted this opportunity to serve you. Your time is valuable, and of course, so is the time of our CFO guests. I'll admit to you on certain weeks, I will pinch myself and say, hey, I get to do this for a living. I speak to all these impressive leaders. Undoubtedly, there are more aggressive interviewers out there, some who leave no stone unturned. But our swim lane is for finance leaders only. And those finance leaders have a unique style of leadership, one that is rooted in the burden of trust. In light of this, finance leaders must take great care not to forfeit this trust as they step into the role of being a more expressive leader. And that is what CFO Thought Leader is really about. That's why I try to remind myself week in, week out, how fortunate I am. Still, I need your help. Tell us what we're doing right. Tell us what we're doing wrong. Email me your comments at jack@cfothoughtleader.com. And please visit cfothoughtleader.com. You'll find a listener survey right on the nav bar. As always, Thank you for listening.